Hey there Guardians, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a peek at some overlooked weapons that can really sit nicely into a lot of the builds in Destiny 2. And these are all world drops. And what I mean by world drop is any weapon that doesn't require you to craft or do a raid to acquire it. These are the godly weapons that you've probably been overlooking. And as there are about 4 months left in this season, you've got plenty of time to go out and farm for these weapons. So we're going to look at what these weapons are, what their equivalent would be from raids or crafted weapons, why these are a solid alternative, and where you can go to farm them. Before we get into the video, I just want to make a quick disclaimer saying that the rules that I'm recommending throughout are based purely on their build interaction and my experience. They are my opinions and shouldn't be considered god rolls, as a god roll is whatever suits you and your playstyle. So we're going to begin by looking at the Old Sterling Auto Rifle, which is a 600 RPM adaptive frame, and it is a good alternative to the Rufus Fury Auto Rifle that drops from the Root of Nightmares raid. Now with Rufus Fury, most people will tell you that the undisputed role that you're looking for is reconstruction hatchling. Now, although Old Sterling can't get reconstruction, it can get rewind rounds, which is a very strong alternate. So rewind round will refund 60% of the number of hits that you have landed. So if you land 100 bullets, you would return 60. So without doubt, we want rewind rounds in our third column. However, our fourth column, there are a couple of really good options that will synergise nicely with rewind rounds. First option is hatchling, where precision final blows or rapidly defeating enemies will spawn a threadling. This is brilliant in almost any strand build, and definitely not to be sniffed at. Other option, which is the one that I personally prefer, is frenzy, where being in combat for an extended time will increase the damage, handling and reload of that weapon until you're out of combat. So, if you can get yourself a Rewind Frenzy or Rewind Hatchling Old Sterling, you have a solid alternative to the Rufus Fury Auto Rifle. The Old Sterling's origin trait is field tested, which means defeating targets or dealing damage with this weapon will gradually increase the range, stability, handling and reload of this weapon. So in other words, just doing damage with it improves its damage, as well as its handling, and its stability, and its reload. So it's a really great origin perk. The most efficient way to farm for the Old Sterling is in Master Loss sectors when you are solo. If you kill all the champions, you are guaranteed to drop a legendary weapon. Now on the Master Loss sectors, there are 4 pools of 4 weapons that rotate daily. So make sure before you go farming that it is actually the day where Old Sterling is on offer. Okay, so next we're going to look at the Belisarius-D Strand Pulse Rifle, which is one of only 3 Strand Pulse Rifles in the game, the other 2 being the Nightshade, which is a Vanguard drop, and the craftable Different Times from Season 21. However, I've been quite polite, the Nightshade and Different Times are both, well, crap. So this really is our only option for a good Strand Pulse. Now, unfortunately, the Belisarius-D is a drop from competitive in the PvP playlist. So if, like me, you're predominantly a PvE player, you have to suck it up and play your 7-game placement series, and that will drop you your first one. Following which, when you complete 3 games on each character each week, you will get another. So that means, once you've done your series, you drop 3 per week, and you can do that every week without fail. Now I've got to be honest, I kind of overlooked this weapon for quite a long time, and the reason being, I just looked at it and thought, Strand Pulse? Meh. Not really interested. However, a good friend of mine, J-Dub, recommended I give it a go. And wow, I'm really glad I did. This thing is a beast, and it now sits firmly in pride of place in a lot of my Strand builds. Now PvP players are probably going to be looking for either Keep Away Headseeker or Rapid Hit Kill Clip, maybe even either Storm Headseeker as their perk combinations. But for PvE, you really want to look for Slice Hatchling, or maybe Slice and Kill Clip. Now, Slice means that after you have used your class ability, you have a short period of time where each shot will sever targets, and sever means that the damage output of that target reduces by 40%. And it actually stacks up to 5 times, so you can apply Slice, i.e. sever, to up to 5 targets, which is fantastic. Hatchling, as previously mentioned, means that precision final blows or multi-hits will spawn threadlings. Again, fantastic. So for PvE, you really want Slice Hatchling. It is phenomenal. The weapon stability can't really be argued with. Recoil direction is pretty much vertical straight out of the box. If you can drop it with arrowhead, obviously it will be perfectly vertical. This thing is stable, it hits hard, and it has fantastic synergy with your strand build. The Belisarius origin trait is the Hake Breach Armaments, which is a little bit lackluster, as it only means that the weapon deals increased damage against vehicles and constructs. However, we also have the option within the origin trait slot of Handlaid Stock, which increases the stability for a +10 stability boost. Bit of a no-brainer, we want this thing to be stable. So even if you hate PvP as much as I do, it is definitely worth farming this gum. I'm going to stick with the PvP weapons for a moment and just do an honourable mention of the Riptide Fusion Rifle, which is a rapid frame stasis fusion with a charge time of 500 milliseconds. Now, the reason I'm saying this is an honourable mention is this has been around for quite a long time, but there are still quite a few PvE players that haven't bothered to pick this up. Definitely worth considering. The chill clip and auto-loading holster roll will synergise very nicely with a lot of builds in Season 23, and it has also had a lot of utility over the past couple of seasons too in many builds. You get this just from playing PvP, anything that you want at all, but the most efficient way to farm it is literally just to acquire Crucible engrams, go and see Shax, and focus decode for it. You want chill clip in the 4th column, pretty much anything you want in the 3rd column, but the Mac Daddy is definitely auto-loading and chill clip. It's a very viable alternative to the Deliverance from the Vow of the Disciple raid. And one final honourable mention for the PvP weapons, and that is the Lethal Abundance auto rifle. This is a strand high impact framed auto rifle that can drop some really tasty combinations for both PvE and PvP. Key ones being in the 3rd column, Slice and Keep Away, and in the 4th column, Target Lock and Onslaught. All of these perks are phenomenal. Next time Iron Banner rolls around, I strongly recommend you focus decode for the Lethal Abundance. Okay, let's look at another Lost Sector farming weapon, the Heliocentric QSC sidearm. This is a solo lightweight frame sidearm, which, I've got to be honest, I've had a few here and there and never really paid it any attention. And that was until I saw a post from Paul Tassi a couple of weeks ago and thought, I'm going to try this. Wow. Holy shit, this thing is good. So, 360 RPM, reasonably large magazine, perfect recoil, reasonable stability, great handling, massive aim assistance, and this thing hits hard. And that's before we start thinking about the origin trait, the Nadir Focus, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, which means that sustained fire increases the accuracy and range of the weapon. We also have some fantastic perk combination capabilities here. However, the ones you want to really look for is Heal Clip in the 3rd column and Incandescent in the 4th. Now, personally, I've still not been lucky enough to drop this. However, a good solid alternative is Heal Clip Frenzy. So Heal Clip means that if we reload after dealing a final blow, we will give ourselves Cure. In other words, we give ourselves a chunk of health back. And this thing absolutely melts, even in Master and Grandmaster content. So much so that I have actually replaced the Drang as my go-to solar sidearm with this. It is just out of this world, and for a world drop, I really wasn't expecting it to be this powerful. Now, unfortunately, the Heliocentric is in a different Lost Sector loot pool to the old Sterling, so you can't double up and just run them on one day. You're going to have to go on different days to get both of these, but they are definitely worth going for. Okay, so before we move on to my nemesis, and probably the best gun of this list, I just want to make a quick call out to a couple of the Warlord Ruin dungeon weapons. First one, the Indebted Kindness sidearm. Now, if you've ever had one of these, this should not come as a surprise that I'm calling this out as one that's worth chasing. It is the only rocket-assisted frame sidearm in the game, and what that means is the sidearm fires little rockets and these explode on impact. And it does a hell of a lot of damage. Now, what we're looking for ideally on this is beacon rounds, which will give our little mini rockets tracking, and vault shot. However, my luck is not so great. But, you know, one of these days. However, the dungeon weapon that I feel is slept on by a lot of people is the Dragoncult Sickle caster-framed strand sword. Now, there are only 2 strand swords in the game, this and the Thin Precipice, which was a craftable sword in Season 21. And although Thin Precipice is a good sword, it doesn't have the perk combinations available to it as the Dragoncult Sickle. So in the third column we have the old reliable Tireless Blades, which refunds ammo for every other kill. Great for trash ads. We also have Demolitionist, which refunds Grenade Engine on kills. But the Mac Daddy is Slice. Again, we've spoken about this earlier in the video. After using your class ability, you'll apply Sever to the next 5 enemies that you hit. And then in the fourth column we have classics like Surrounded, where we gain a 35% damage boost when there are 3 enemies in close proximity. Chain Reaction, which will trigger an explosion on a kill, and that deals damage within a 3 meter radius of that kill. And for perfect synergy, we also have Hatchling, which will spawn Threadlings on multi-kills. Now, of all of these, I would recommend Hatchling Slice. Again, I know I've said it with a couple of weapons, but really the synergy of these 2 perks cannot be overstated. They just work beautifully with any strand build. And I was finally lucky enough to drop this roll on my second run this week. So why am I recommending this perk combination? Well, if you're dealing with swarms of ads, you just cut through them with ease. Slice minimises their damage, and Hatchling will spawn tons and tons of Threadlings that will just go off and kill everything in your vicinity. But that's pretty standard with any sword. We can just cut through swathes of ads without even trying. But what makes this perk combination so powerful is its DPS potential. By which I mean, we activate our class ability, that gives us Slice, which will sever the boss, meaning 40% damage reduction. And then using the caster frame means that we can stand off and launch the heavy projectile attack at the boss from a safe-ish distance. And then Hatchling will be spawning Threadlings that continue to attack the boss as we attack. All of this combined means that we have a sword where we're in a reasonably safe position and able to deal huge damage. It's great. Now, the origin trait on the Warlord Ruin weapons is Sundering, and it's a little bit meh. All it means is that destroying vehicles and constructs will grant a bonus reload speed and charge time, but we don't often get to activate this in any real kind of endgame content. But hey, it's there, it's free. Every now and then it might come in useful. And this brings us finally to the one weapon I am desperately trying to farm and having absolutely zero success with. The Ros Arago IV, which is a Void Adaptive Frame Auto Rifle. Now unfortunately this is a world drop weapon, which means there's no way to target farm it. You just have to pray to RNGesus and hope for the best. And right now RNG hates me with a passion. I just cannot seem to get a decent roll of this weapon to drop. However, the reason that I'm trying to get this is the perk combinations in the 3rd and 4th column are brilliant, and the origin trait Wildcard basically turns this thing into a bit of a mini Telesto. So Wildcard means that final blows of this weapon have a chance to drop sub-munitions. Now these are like the Telesto's little bolts. They stick around and explode, and they do huge damage when you're dealing with ants. Now the number of sub-munitions generated depends on the enemy tier, so miners will drop 1, elites will drop 3, and mini-bosses, champions bosses will drop 7. So in the 3rd column we can drop things like permeability, which is the energy weapon equivalent of osmosis. So if we use our class ability, it will change the weapon's damage type to match. Very good if you're using a strand or stasis subclass. You can also get repulsor brace, which will give you an overshield if you kill any enemy with a void debuff applied. But what I'm chasing is rewind rounds. We've mentioned this earlier, it will refund 60% of the bullets that you have hit from your previous magazine, meaning you just keep on firing and firing and firing, which then means you have the knock-on effect of being able to activate Wildcard more often. In the 4th column, we can get things like Golden Tricorn for a damage boost, but the one I'm chasing is Onslaught. So, think about this. Onslaught increases our fire speed 16, 28 and then 37% as it stacks up to 3 times, and it also improves our reload speed by 15, 25 and then 35% as we go up the stacks. So we're improving our reload rate, we're increasing our fire rate with Onslaught. With Rewind, the more hits we get, the longer we can fire between reloads, meaning we can stack Onslaught further and further and further. And Wildcard is going to be generating these sub-munitions. This thing is a monster if you can get this roll. But I haven't been lucky enough yet. So I'm going to go back to just running around the moon, trying to get normal world drop engrams and praying that maybe one of them will actually be nice to me. So there we have it, Guardians. There's several weapons that are worth investing your time and energy in chasing down. All of these have great capabilities in their own right and have great synergy potential with multiple different build types within the game. If you've enjoyed this video or are interested in more Destiny 2 content, please drop a like and maybe even subscribe. You'd really be helping the channel grow. But until next time, when I'm back with more build videos, I hope whatever you're doing, you have a fantastic day.